Chapter 4. Gathering in the Darkness. It was nightfall in Konoha. The explosion at the Hawkage Tower earlier that day had made the village once more go under lockdown. The explosion, while massive in itself in terms using a human body as the conduit, had not killed anyone but rather injured, and sent many to the hospital. Not surprising, since the shrapnel used in the explosion were the many bone the human body possessed. And Kabuto's inhuman changes from personally experimenting on his form gave the man quite a few extra bones in it. But that was not important. For in the shadows, in the dead of night, were two ninjas bearing the mark of Uzu and the Uzumaki clan on their bodies. They moved silently and with a purpose. They knew Konoha inside and out because they had been here before, and knew all of the places to enter the village without being detected. Who were these two particular shinobi? Their names were the former Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato, and Uzumaki Kushina. These two infamous ninja were heading toward the hospital. They needed to gather some of their son's blood in order for him to perform his modified Edo Tensei that wouldn't be a puppet body at all. With what Naruto had in mind, their son would be able to return to his old body with the Baiju sealed inside it once more, since the two were bound to one body, no matter what. "I can't wait for Naruto-kun to be whole again," mumbled Kushina after infiltrating the hospital with Minato. "I agree, Kushina-chan. To think this village we grew up in would betray him. To think that those we trusted in Konoha would betray him," remarked Minato before entering the cold storage unit for blood. They are about to learn the price of their betrayal is very steep. Paid for with blood, and with the lives of those who are responsible for all of his pain, said Kushina coldly, before finding what she needed, and took the blood pack off the rack at the very end of the unit and put it in a storage scroll. They quickly exited the room, but stopped when the form of a slightly battered Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, and Anbu made their presence known. To say the Konoha nin were shocked was an understatement. They knew from Kabuto and Naruto possessing Kabuto that both legendary shinobi were now alive. They knew Naruto had done something to bring them back from the belly of the Shinigami, but a part of them didn't want to believe it. "Minato?" asked Jiraiya while Minato scowled. "Hello, Iro Sennin. You haven't changed much, still as pathetic as ever. It's almost hard to imagine that I learned anything from you." Minato spat out venomously while Jiraiya had flinched at them. "Minato, don't say that. You became Hokage thanks to my guidance," protested Jiraiya before Minato was gone in a flash and in front of the Sannin before throwing him and Kakashi out of the nearby window. With Minato in hot pursuit of Jiraiya's and Kakashi's downed forms before anyone could protest. As for Kushina, she was in Tsunade's face, just like Minato had done, but rather than throw the Senju out of the window, the red-haired Uzumaki threw Tsunade through the hospital wall, opposite of the windows. The Anbu tried to fight Kushina, but the chakra chains she commanded had come out of her body and skewered them all without mercy. With a mere flick of each chain, their bodies became stains on the wall, ceiling, and roof around her. Without even acknowledging the display of carnage she left behind, Kushina casually walked through the hole in the wall, where Tsunade was holding her ribs where she had been hurt by the explosion at the Hawkage Tower. "Hello, old hag. Long time no see," commented Kushina before picking Tsunade up by the throat, and began to hit the slug Sannin multiple times in the ribs, knowing that was where she was hurt, the most and even more so with the Uzumaki version of the Sannin's super strength technique. "And you know what they say, always hit them where it hurts." "Kushina! Pliase!" pleaded Tsunade before being slammed down into the floor by Kushina. "Stop? As my son asked people to stop? When they beat him? When they hurt him? Did you cry tears for him when he was executed? When the people cheered after he died? When they burned his body? When his ashes were scattered to the winds?" questioned Kushina with each question, asked being followed by a punch to the ribs. "I was in a coma when it happened. I couldn't help him," protested Tsunade before she was once more thrown hard onto the floor. "And what about when he was growing up? We trusted you and Jiraiya to raise him if anything happened to us. To take care of him. We trusted you, Jiraiya, and Hiruzen to make sure he was loved. And what do? You left to gamble, drink, and throw your life away while my son's life was rotting from within the village's walls," exclaimed an angry Kushina with right leg shooting all the way up, vertically before bringing it down hard on Tsunade's chest, with enough force to send the woman down several floors of the hospital. With her anger temporarily subsided, Kushina ran out of the hospital via the destroyed window to meet her husband. The man himself was standing over the beaten and broken bodies of those he once trusted to help raise his son if he died. Which he did, and they failed miserably, all because of stupidity and arrogance. His right hand was stained in blood with a kunai in it, but who Minato had stabbed was unknown to her at the time. At first, Kushina thought he had killed one of them, but thought differently when hearing Kakashi whimpering, and Jiraiya moving slightly. Of course, Minato had been tempted to kill them both. Oh, so tempted. But Minato knew Naruto had other plans for them, and death now would be merciful. And Naruto wasn't big on merciful when it came to Konoha. "We will meet again, Jiraiya. Kakashi. Only next time you along with all of Konoha will burn for their crimes against our family. Spread the word. Konoha's days are numbered," remarked Minato before he and his wife were gone in a flash. Akatsuki HQ days later. "So, the loser is alive after all. It figures," remarked Sasuke with a scowl on his face. "Come now, Sasuke-kun. No need to get all emo here. This is a good thing. Besides, you wouldn't be this way if you were in his position of coming back from the dead," said Obito, since he saw no real point to hide himself behind the mask anymore to the others now that the old Akatsuki was dead. "That's because I'm an Uchiha, an elite. Death itself bows to my greatness," said Sasuke in an arrogant tone, since he knew his clan was descended from the Sage of Six Paths. Hence his belief that all other people and clans in the world were all pieces of trash, meant to serve him in any way he saw fit. "You forget, Sasuke. The Senju clan is also descended from the Sage of Six Paths, and the Uzumaki clan were their cousins too, meaning they are also descended from that great man," challenged Obito, since he knew what Sasuke was thinking about in regards to his bloodline. "They were weak. They let themselves get wiped out," remarked Sasuke harshly. "Perhaps, but it took the might of many powerful people, and many years of planning to do it. Ours? Well, not so much," replied Obito while Sasuke glared at him. "Are you saying that Uchiha are weak? Your own clan?" challenged Sasuke while Obito smirked. "Considering how easy it was to kill so many in a single night. Yes. I think I am," said Obito with the Uchiha in front of him scowling even harder, but did not retaliate. Arrogant or not, Sasuke knew Obito was stronger than him. There was no point in getting into a physical confrontation with him. Any further thoughts were interrupted by Jugo acting fidgety and Karen turning to look at the giant statue currently holding 8 of the 9 Biju. It was pulsing a bit, and you could see small waves of the different chakra stirring within the eyes of the statue. In fact, the different colored forms of chakra from the Biju were moving around almost like they were alive, and the statue itself was starting to shake a bit. "Something is wrong with the statue," commented Karen while she felt the many different emotions each Biju was giving off in the statue now, and it was slowly overwhelming her. "I feel it too. Something is making them stir and want to break out," added Jugo while his own unstable power was stirring too. "And not in a good way?" "Nonsense. The Biju are merely beasts, mindless beasts consisting of chakra. They have neither personality nor thoughts to call their own," remarked Obito with a scowl, before he turned to look at the statue with his Rinnegan and Sharingan eyes. Sure enough, his eyes were showing the Biju within the giant statue were indeed moving about in their ethereal chakra forms, moving about almost violently, like wild animals seeking to escape their cages in order to be free. But Obito wouldn't allow it. They were beasts, and beasts had no right to protest his actions. They were part of a bigger plan, one that would allow Rin to be alive, and he could be with her forever. Still, he couldn't understand how the Biju were able to move in the statue when they had been so docile before today. What was happening? What was causing them to act like this? And why couldn't he make them stop with his Sharingan? Uzu at the moment. How do you feel, son? Asked Kushina while seeing her only son in his restored body, walking over to the mirror and look at himself. While mostly the same, Naruto had aged his body to match what it would have been if not for Konoha's betrayal. His hair was still spiky and blonde, like his father's hair, but he added some red to it through his power in order to honor his Uzumaki clan heritage. His eyes were blue, but they had fire deep within them that showed a part of him was still very much Saren. That if you crossed him, you would face the wrath of the Dark Lord of old, who brought Middle-earth to her knees on several occasions. I feel fine, mother. I feel whole in a sense. Well, physically whole anyway. Just not in the mental way of things. Not yet, replied Naruto calmly, before he looked down at the ring of power now secured in his ring finger of his right hand. Kurama was now whole again, but was temporarily locked within the ring of power until the adjustment of such a merging of the two halves of the bijou were complete. Even now the fox was resting from the merger, and his power coursing through the ring with the same symbols mixed with text of its predecessor burning brightly. When will you seek to find Hinata and your son? Asked Kushina with Naruto's eyes softening. Soon. Not yet, but very soon. The Akatsuki must fall first, replied Naruto, knowing that the Akatsuki had more leeway to move since they didn't follow the rules of other countries when it came to entering or leaving them. Konoha didn't either most of the time, but even a shinobi village had to make it seem like they did, and were more tied down by the rules. It makes sense. Is that why you dispatched Minato, Hashirama, Tobirama, and Nito to Ame? Asked Kushina with Naruto nodding. Yes, whispered Naruto before he turned to look at his mother. I could have gone with them. Why didn't you let me? Asked Kushina curiously. Because I need to ask you a question. A question only you can answer, replied Naruto with Kushina frowning. Question? About what? Asked Kushina curiously. I have done many things since my first death. Horrible things. Cruel things. I channeled my pain, my hatred, my very darkness into a weapon. And now that I have returned to the very world from which I was shunned, I now plan to conquer it. I plan to bring her to its knees and bring about an age of order not seen any lifetime since before the 5 shinobi villages ever existed. So the question I am asking you, as your son, is this. Do you believe in what I have done and what I'm about to do is the right course? That I should seize this world through for the sake of lasting peace? Asked Naruto with Kushina smiling at him. Yes, I think you should. This world as a whole has suffered enough, Naruto. There have been more wars, battles, fighting, and deaths ever since the formation of the 5 shinobi villages. Each country now has a shinobi village, or hires the nearest one. They all fight each other for more power. The Kage and shinobi village may answer to the daimyo of the country they reside in, but the daimyos themselves do little to keep an eye on them, trusting the Kage of the shinobi village in question to do a competent job of running it, instead of having some proper oversight. The majority of the daimyos, from what I have seen of the world, are lazy, and don't keep an eye on the shinobi villages. If they did do that to ensure the appointed Kage doesn't go about ruining their reputation, things might be different, replied Kushina with Naruto nodding. Kages are like children with toys. Unsupervised children being entrusted by their stupid and irresponsible parents that are the daimyos to do things themselves. All the while, the daimyos are hoping the Kage of the shinobi village will be responsible. If not, what do they care so long as they don't see it? Ignorance truly must be bliss for them, remarked Naruto coldly while Kushina nodded. Until someone comes along and makes them open their eyes, added Kushina with Naruto, grinning now. And that someone, my dear mother, will be me. When the Akatsuki are no more, I have an important assignment for you to handle, and must be done with utmost discretion, stated Naruto while heading to the top of Uzu Tower, and breathed in the fresh air of his mother's homeland. It was time. It was time to summon unto him those who would be his new wraiths and would serve him to the end of time. Slowly raising his right arm vertically straight, Naruto slowly closed it tightly into a fist and began to speak an ancient tongue learned during his time from Middle-earth. He was asserting his will, his might, and his strength into the ring of power now glowing with a shining intensity. Storm clouds began to form over Uzu Tower as Naruto began chanting heavily in the ancient tongue of Mortar, ignoring the sounds of lightning shooting down from the sky, shooting down at the tower, and at times, down directly at him. But he did not care. Why should he? It wasn't hurting him. Never again would he be weak. Never again would he allow something so simple as severing the ring of power from his hand be his downfall. Never again. In the land of Uzu where the whirlpools lies, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Uzu where the whirlpool lies, chanted Naruto while reaching out to the other Biju through Kurama in the ring of power and calling on them to break free from the statue that held them to serve him instead. He knew they felt the call of the One Ring. Everyone in Uzu could feel it, the need for it. They were drawn to staring at Naruto at the top of Uzu Tower while repeating the chant over and over again. From the Uzumaki clan to the Dark Samurai and to Dooku himself in wonder at his power. The amount of power, the sheer will, the fortitude behind just what Naruto was doing had been intense. The action of which Naruto was unleashing his very might had practically shaken the whole island down to its foundation. In fact, the entire top of Uzu Tower could be seen to have a ball of chakra surrounding the tips of the building itself, before shooting into the heavens, for all to see from every corner of the land. It was the sign of Uzu's return. It was a sign to the world saying that the Uzumaki clan had come back from near extinction. It was a sign to all of his enemies that their days in this world in terms of being alive were numbered. It was a sign that the flames of war were upon all who stood in his path. Aim at the moment. "What the hell?" exclaimed Suigetsu, seeing the statue holding the Biju begin to crack in various places. "This is bad. The statue is breaking," exclaimed Jugo while hearing the call of the Ring of Power, and shaking in fear, because he did not know why he could hear such a call in the first place. "We need to get out of here," added Karen while hearing the call of her family in Uzu through the Ring of Power. She could hear the command from the one wielding. It was practically compelling her to abandon the Akatsuki and return to the Uzumaki ancestral homeland. Karen could feel his presence, his power, and even his very being shining down in her direction. Whenever she closed her eyes, Karen could feel like this person was looking at her with a single eye, and his will was pressing down with unimaginable strength. This shouldn't be happening. Why is it happening? Thought Obito while trying to use his Sharingan on the chakra of the Biju, trying to break out of the statue in the hopes his power would make them stop. Only to find it wasn't working at all. "What is wrong? I thought you said the Sharingan could suppress and control the Biju," demanded Sasuke while trying his luck with his eyes, in the hopes they would be strong enough to get the job done. Only to find his luck in trying was no better. The two Uchiha were so focused on the statue that neither of them noticed Jugo, Karen, and even Suigetsu had abandoned the room to flee. They knew the tall tale signs of when to ditch something that was not worth dying for, and this situation qualified as such. As the trio were running, though, they stopped to notice a single battered woman with blue hair in a cell sporting a small smile on her face. Her name, Kanan. She had fought Obito with all her strength and power. She lost, of course, but made Obito work for it and cost him his Sharingan. Though in return, he kept her alive and took the Rinnegan from Nagato's body to compensate for the loss. In the years following her own defeat, Kanan thought the dream of peace she, Yahiko, and Nagato wanted so badly for so long would die with her. That all was lost to the ways of corruption the shinobi system had created within itself, where the few ruled over many, but cared nothing for them, or anyone except themselves. How the few wanted more power and sacrificed the innocent lives of others for their own guilty pleasures, in life of living comfortably, in their seats of so-called power. It was why the plan the Akatsuki had come up with through Pain had involved the 9 Bijou in the first place. Take away the main power of a shinobi village and slowly, but surely force them into submission with the very Bijou they used to make their weapons. Only for the whole situation to spiral out of control, members being killed off, Nagato dying, and the truth behind the lies and false promises were finally exposed, with Konan broken to the point where she just wanted to die. Or at least she did, until the command from Naruto echoed from the top of Uzu Tower, and knew he had truly returned. The true leader of the Uzumaki clan. The true leader meant to bring about peace. The dream was still alive. She just had to get out of here to see it fulfilled. Shit! What is she smiling about? Asked Suigetsu while staring at the smiling woman, who gave them each a look before stopping to stare at Karin with knowing eyes. Jugo! Suigetsu! Open the cell! We're all getting out of here and going straight for Uzu, commanded Karin with Suigetsu, looking at her like she was nuts, and Jugo obeying. And who the hell made you the boss? Questioned Suigetsu angrily. Baka, you know what is coming. Even you can sense it, even in that pea-sized brain of yours floating in your head. Do you want to be in its path? No. Then do as I say this one stupid time and just follow me to Uzu, where we will be safe from the wrath of the person making all the Bijou in that room go crazy, exclaimed Karin to his face, and was not in the mood for one of his moods. Oh, well, when you put it like that, lead on, stated Suigetsu while Karin helped Jugo get Konan out of the cell, and the four ran out of the base like their lives depended on it. I don't understand. It's like some outside force is calling them and they are obeying the command over my own, replied Obito before the belly of the statue broke, and the Bijou chakra of Shukaku shot out of it, followed by the Nibi, Hachibi, the Gobi, and all the others tailed beasts. Each of them had shot up to the ceiling of the room, breaking through it violently, and howling loudly with fury that echoed deep within the soul of their chakra bodies. They were long streams of potent chakra dancing through the sky as they headed for Uzu, with the front of these streams of different color chakra showing the faces of the Bijou. Of course, given the speed they were moving, one would find it difficult to see those faces and identify just what they in fact were. It wasn't long before the 8 beams of chakra dancing around each other finally made it to Uzu, where they went straight for Uzu Tower. When they reached the base of the huge tower, all 8 moved up the structure before shooting past it before swarming around the top of the building. One by one, each line of chakra from each Bijou descended upon Naruto, or rather, to be more precise, his ring. Each Bijou entered the ring of power. The jewel itself was pulsing strongly after each tailed beast entered, until finally, all of them had entered the circular object around Naruto's ring finger, before an even more impressive explosion of chakra shot up toward the heavens for all to see. Konoha at the moment. Danzo bit back a scream. The sudden pain his hidden arm and his bandaged head, where his implanted eye was located, were throbbing in pain. Even now, he could feel blood leaking out of his eye where the Sharingan was located, and those grafted onto his arm. The arm itself felt like it was in fact splintering like wood and causing Danzo more pain with each passing second. Is this the brat's doing? How? How is this possible? Thought Danzo while looking out of the window of the Hulkage Tower to see the power shooting upward into the sky. Around Konoha, the ground shook violently. The rain that had been a part of Konoha for well over half a decade became heavier. Lightning increased in its output, and some of the buildings in the village had collapsed. It was as if the heavens above were continuing in their crusade, in cursing Konoha and him personally for his past actions against the vile Kyubi Jinchuriki. Cursing slightly, the old war hawk for a Hawkage glared at the power that he wanted, and felt should be his simply because Danzo wanted it. All of that god-like power off in the distance, and it was not his to command. Such blasphemy! He was the Hawkage, the ruler of Konoha. His word was law here. This power belonged to him and him alone. Once more, the pain through his body rippled through him, and more blood drained out of the many Sharingan eyes his body possessed. Danzo didn't know how Naruto was able to do this to him, but he wouldn't allow it to continue, and knew just what to do. He was going to manipulate events so an army marches on Uzu and crushes them. Your orders. Danzo-sama, asked a Root Anbu after the Hokage motioned for one of his subordinates to come forward. Send out a message to the other 4 cages of their shinobi villages and call for a cage summit. It's high time we bring Uzu to the forefront of the world and remind the Kyuubi Jinchuriki that the Uzumaki clan is no longer welcome in this world, ordered Danzo while continuing his glaring at the direction Uzu was located. Yes, Danzo-sama, said the Root Anbu before leaving to carry out his orders. You want a war with me, brat? I have more years of experience than you have had years to live, thought Danzo while needing one of his medic nins to heal his injuries. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade lay in her hospital bed, whimpering from the pain running through her body, which was surprising to the doctors and nurses due to the fact she had pain medication running through her body, so pain shouldn't be an issue. What they didn't know was the power being generated from Naruto's action was reacting to the Uzumaki blood and even the Senju blood in her veins. It was as if her blood had been ignited by this power and was burning away at her very being. Why? Why am I in pain? Why is this happening to me? Why does my blood burn at me like this? Why do I feel as if my very soul is under attack right now by unseen force of nature? Thought Tsunade with her eyes closed while she tried to fight this pain, but only intensified the more she fought. Tsunade-sama, exclaimed Shizune when she saw her teacher in all things medical cry out in pain and arch upward to the point where the human body shouldn't be like that for long. You forget yourself, Senju Tsunade. You have forgotten what it means to be loyal to your blood. You have forgotten your family and the legacy they left behind. But you will remember today, and when you do, you will weep for your years of betrayal. You will weep before seeking me out and begging for my forgiveness, exclaimed the voice of Naruto in her head with a giant eye wreathed in flame, staring down at her form within her very mind. Naruto, how are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Thought Tsunade, while tears ran down her face on the outside of her body, and she could see the giant eye from within her mind. You know why I'm doing this. You sided with Danzo. You sided with traitors. You are no better than Uchiha Madara, and less honorable than Orochimaru. But you will learn soon enough that treachery for siding with my enemies has a price, Tsunade. A very big and very steep price, and you will pay it one way or another, exclaimed Naruto with his eye increasing in size within her mind, and Tsunade could practically feel the heat from it burning her very flesh. I'm sorry, Naruto. I thought, thought Tsunade before his very presence had overwhelmed her, and she fell to her knees within her mind. You didn't think. You just went along with it because you lack a spine. For all your tough talk about being the strongest kunoichi in the world, you are nothing but a whiny, spoiled brat who hides behind pathetic excuses, bellowed Naruto while the woman in front of him cried even harder. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, thought Tsunade while the giant eye in front of her just seemed to grow in size, and the power now behind it was too much for the woman to handle. You don't know the meaning of the world, but you will soon enough. You and all of Konoha will know my wrathful hand, Tsunade. It will be swift, it will be unspeakable, and above all, it will be without mercy, exclaimed Naruto before he left her mind, and the woman herself was lost deep within the darkness of her own mind to cry like a little child. Tsunade-sama, asked Shizune while seeing the woman's crying and look of pain had increased the whole time, only to slow temper down a bit. Naruto, I'm so sorry, whispered Tsunade, which made Shizune freeze in shock at hearing her sensei say those words. Why would she say that? I thought she hated him for everything that befell Konoha after his birth, thought Shizune with worry over what her mentor just said out loud. Contrary what many thought, Tsunade had indeed come back to Konoha shortly after the Kyuubi's attack, if only to confirm for herself that Kushina had indeed died at the hands of the Bijou during the attack. When Hiruzen explained things in his own point of view about Kushina's death, and Naruto being her child and Jinchuriki, the distraught Senju woman became angry with the way things had turned out. She soon left Konoha with the intention of never returning to the village no matter what. Why should she? Her family was dead. Dan was dead. Nawaki was dead. Kushina and Minato were dead. Their son was a Jinchuriki and held the fox responsible for their deaths. As far as Tsunade was concerned, the boy could rot in the village, and Hiruzen could do what he liked with the brat. She didn't care if Naruto was hated or loved by Konoha. It was their choice. Let them deal with the fallout if there was one, and leave her out of end result. At least, that was her first thought until many years later when Jiraiya came about, and had the nerve to bring Naruto with him for whatever stupid reason the Toad Sage had for doing it. Shizune knew how her mentor had felt about Naruto, given the drunken rants one went on from time to time, so it had been difficult to keep the blonde woman from lashing out until Naruto had in fact provoked her into a fight. Of course, Tsunade's own drunken state at the time had left her in a state of being arrogant, and chose to fight him with just one finger over an entire fist, packed with enough power to make his thick skull explode. Something Tsunade admitted to Jiraiya and Shizune. She wished happened while Naruto was on a mission with his team, but stayed her hand because Konoha still needed the damn brat. After Naruto had been killed, Tsunade, upon learning the news once out of her coma, was at first happy, and felt those she loved could be at peace knowing the boy was gone forever. Future threats and a prophecy ended, and all was well in her life despite Danzo becoming the next Hokage. Let him deal with the paperwork while she had more freedom to get hammered and gamble to her heart's content. By that point, the nightmares began to plague her at night. During her sleep, Tsunade was visited by those she loved, all of which were not there to embrace the woman like she had first thought. Instead, they had denounced her, hated her, called her a betrayal of all the things they held sacred, including family, and abandoning Naruto when deep down, she knew what was going to happen to him. For years, Tsunade was tormented by the dreams she had of her family denouncing her, and calling the woman just about everything under the sun that could be related to the definition of being a traitor. Shizune had tried to calm her sensei's mind, telling Tsunade it was just some lagging sense of guilt she shouldn't even have, and to just let such lingering feelings go. But now, with her in this weakened state, and Naruto having returned to the world with incredible power at his command, these things along with himself had entered her mind full force. They had entered her mind, shattered the strong front she put up for herself, and others to reduce the once proud woman into a sniveling little girl. It was actually scaring Shizune quite a bit. MT Mayaboku with Jiraiya. Jiraiya was actually not in the hospital like Tsunade had been. No. He had gone to Mentai Mayaboku after his old student had proceeded to beat the crap out of him, and went to inform the Toads of this situation. Not surprising, the Toads had found out about it when the Toad summoning contract revealed Minato's name on it wasn't crossed off like it had been when the man died. Not only that, but Naruto's name was once more there without being crossed off, and signifying he was once again alive too. Seeing an opportunity here, the Sannin tried to reverse summon Naruto to the mountain in order to take him out, if not weaken him with a few well-placed seals. But Jiraiya had quickly found that the Toad contract wouldn't do it for him some odd reason, and he grew increasingly frustrated on the issue. He could only conclude that Naruto found a way to nullify the reverse summons with his newly acquired power. We need to do something about this Gamabunta. Pa, Ma, Elder. Surely you realize we need to counter Naruto now while we have what little time there is left, protested Jiraiya while trying to convince the Toads to help Konoha go to war against Naruto. Time. What time do you think we have, Jiraiya? The truth is we have none. Even if there was any time to counter Naruto's plans, it wouldn't do you any good, replied Pa while he saw Jiraiya frown. Why not? Surely it's not because of Minato, right? Asked Jiraiya while the Toads as a whole scowled at him. You have no idea what you and Konoha have done, Jiraiya. Even now you assume there is time to counter Naruto, and his ambitions to unite the world under his banner. to unite the world and bring peace to it through war. A war you brought upon Konoha and those who would oppose him simply because he was a Jinchuriki, yet refused to be controlled by anyone around him. It was bad enough you neglected your godson, but to use him like a tool, mooch off of him whenever possible, and then later assist in his death goes against everything we taught you, stated the elder in a rare display of life, and anger with Jiraiya frowning. I was his sensei. I should be able to mooch off of him. The only reason I didn't do it to Minato was due to Kushina seeing what I wanted to do and wouldn't let me, mumbled Jiraiya before being smacked on the head by an angry Ma. Baka! You should have just acted like a sensei instead of being a pervert who only cares about doing his research, that is peeping on women in hot springs and baths, exclaimed Gamabunta angrily at Jiraiya since the giant toad boss cared about the boy, and was saddened when he died. Hey! My research is important to all my loyal readers. Without it, my books would be worthless, and I would have to try going back to my failure I wrote prior to Icha. All things take a back seat to it, including any students I might be training at the time. The way of the super pervert trumps all things. Jiraiya shot back before cowering under the glare of every single member of the Toad clan sitting around him. Shut up! Yelled every toad at once and shook the mountain. Jiraiya, we have tolerated you, and your perverted ways long enough. The only reason we didn't remove you earlier was because of necessity. Without you, we had no means to enter the human world. We were not about to wait for someone else to find Mayaboku on accident like you did on a stupid whim. Not when the likes of Manda and other ilk who were about getting a strong foothold in it with the aid of those like Oro Akamaru or his assistant Kabuto. But the power of Naruto, his allies, and those we could truly be honored to call summoners have returned, said Gamabunta at last, to Jiraiya shock. You can't be serious. You are cutting me out, ending your contract with me. You have no right, exclaimed Jiraiya angrily before he was pinned down by Gamabunta. We have every right. You who abused our knowledge. You who violated our trust in sharing information about the prophecies the elder foretold. You who betrayed your student and his son by leaving him to suffer in a village that hated him. You are not worthy of being a sage. You are not worthy of being our summoner. You are not worthy of being a part of our family, stated Gamabunta, while Jiraiya growled angrily at him. I will do everything in my power to keep Konoha on top, even if it means doing what you consider to be morally questionable things. I am the gallant Jiraiya, and I will not allow some pathetic brat nor his allies stop me from defending my home, stated Jiraiya while he tried to get away, but couldn't. You still can't see it, Jiraiya. You have eyes, but cannot see. You have ears, but cannot hear. You do not know what it is to feel, to sense, to understand. To expand one's mind beyond the limitations to see things beyond normal reasoning. We taught you how, but you never could reach your full potential. No doubt due your vain, greedy ways, and the belief it would prevent you from peeping on women, remarked Ma while she was glaring at him. Oh, Jiraiya, so much potential. Yet you did not unlock it, choosing the physical pleasures of the flesh over the spiritual connections of the cosmos and beyond. You were many things, but your strongest trait was that of being a fool. Even now you believe Konoha as a whole has the strength and power to fight Naruto. There are none who can, whispered the elder Toad while giving Jiraiya a knowing look. You are going to side with him. Side with him in fighting Konoha and all those that stand against him. You hypocrites! Without Konoha, Minato, or myself, you would be wasting away in Filthy Mountain, eating all those disgusting bugs for days on end, exclaimed Jiraiya angrily at the elder. Do not take it personally, Jiraiya. But we have felt Naruto's strength, and even without the most latest of developments, we know that against his incredible power, there can be no victory. We will not allow this mountain, nor the Toad clan to burn because of Konoha, and your own arrogance in believing you are somehow protected by Kami in some manner, replied the elder Toad. Konoha has, and always will have, the protection of Kami and his light shining down on us. We are the strongest village among the major 5. We have endured 3 shinobi wars and came out of each one on top. We have repelled one enemy after another, and we will repel him," challenged Jiraiya while the Elder Toad shook his head. "No, Jiraiya, you don't. Konoha survived because of the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan giving their lives for Konoha. They showed loyalty, trust, and love for a village that did not return it when they needed help," countered the Elder Toad while Jiraiya sneered. If they couldn't see their clans dying out because of the village as a whole was doing it, then it is clear they were too stupid and naive in believing they deserved to exist in this world, exclaimed Jiraiya angrily while having his own hidden contempt for the founding clans of Konoha. Jiraiya, like Minato had when growing up, was an orphan, never knowing his parents, and on occasion got teased and taunted for not knowing them. Some would say he was just a bastard child born from some nymphomaniac for a whore, which would explain his desire to constantly peep on women. Others were kinder by saying he was the child of 2 great Konoha shinobi, both of whom had died during a mission, and defended Konoha to their last breath. Jiraiya didn't know which one to believe, but tried to live up to the standards of the latter by being a skilled shinobi. The problem was that most, if not all, orphans in a shinobi village got next to nothing in terms of training, teachers, and help when it came to learning at the academy. They were the dead lasts of the academy, and as such were not considered to be anything special by anyone, not even their own Junin sensei, which only proved to upset Jiraiya further due to the fact his sensei was Sarutobi Hiruzen and future Sandaime Hokage of Konoha. The man constantly favored Orochimaru, who came from a shinobi family of what many would consider middle class, and thus were well liked. Orochimaru always got the best stuff, the best books, and the best of everything his parents could give him prior to their deaths. Not that their deaths could stop him. In fact, the Snake Sannin had been a genius when it came to learning and was a prodigy in his own right. Hiruzen spent so much time with Orochimaru in order to groom him to be a great shinobi of Konoha, while leaving Jiraiya and even Tsunade at times in the dust. Not that it really mattered to Tsunade since her clan was planning on teaching her on the side, but for a genin like Jiraiya it stung since he had neither a family nor a clan to train him unless it was as a team. Even then, it was team training, and the exercises didn't really meld well together unless they were in a real life and death situation. So Jiraiya did most, if not all, of his training by himself, trying to get by with what he could, using what money he saved up to get his own ninja equipment, an apartment, and anything else his mission pay would earn him. Of course he probably would have had more if not for the fact his medical bills stacked up from the beatings women gave him for peeping in the hot springs. Or the one time he spied on Tsunade and she beat him quite literally within an inch of his life before throwing him into the hospital to get his injuries attended to while in full body cast. It was actually during that time alone in solitude while in such a state after Hiruzen paid him a visit with a look of displeasure that Jiraiya's dislike for the Senju and the Uzumaki clan sprouted. The Senju clan was loved for their known history with Hashirama and Tobirama, being the Hokages of Konoha. Meanwhile, the Uzumaki clan had provided Fuinjutsu, along with helping get the village out of some financial debt caused by the First Shinobi War, and had planned on still helping with some additional funding on the side at the time. They were such strong clans in both wealth, skill, power, and always showing off their skills in what they did. Always showing off how they did it, but could never in good consciences share the wealth of such power for one reason or another. He knew if such power from either side were in his hands, he could do wondrous things with it, and everyone would admire him for using such skills. The gallant Jiraiya would finally get the respect he rightly deserved, and all the women his perverted mind, if not hands, could handle. So Jiraiya studied Fuinjutsu, and showed he had a real talent for it. Not quite the level of an Uzumaki, but pretty damn close in his mind. As for the Senju clan, it was one of the reasons he wanted to date, and eventually marry Tsunade. This way he could at least be part of a great clan like hers and say as much to others when talking to high-class, nobles, daimyos, and other high-placed people. Sadly, Tsunade didn't like him like that at all. In fact, she had been the opposite with him due to his perverted tendencies, and had fallen for some sissy boy named Dan. It was bad enough that Tsunade turned him down at every turn, but to love that feminine idiot who came off as a proper gentleman and saying how he liked her ideas for a medic nin on each assigned team was just pathetic. Jiraiya believed women loved manly men. Men who could puff out their chest, beat up the bad guys, and smile with sparkling teeth while showing off their manly pecs in a way that made women swoon or squeal in delight. Not skinny sissy boys who smile at women gently in a friendly manner. It was one of the reasons why Jiraiya had used his spy network to have Dan removed. If the gallant Jiraiya couldn't have Tsunade or her clan in his pocket via a romantic relationship, he damn well could make sure no one else did either. Besides, the Senju clan by that point had dwindled down to Nawaki and Tsunade, with the former perishing during a mission. The woman was in a sense the last Senju, and would have been pushed into an arranged marriage to make more of them if not for the state of the war during that time. Jiraiya had wanted to have their sensei set it up so she would marry him, but Tsunade was too depressed over the loss of Dan to even think about the idea. Something that made Jiraiya pissed since it seemed Dan's memory would survive his death, and the action by the Toad Sannin at the time of removing him was all for nothing. Not that Tsunade knew of his involvement in this. Far from it. Hiruzen knew, and so did Orochimaru, but both were dead. And the other would never be believed due to his own lying ways, along with past history of deception. Even if Orochimaru were alive today to tell the tale, Tsunade would never believe him, and there was no proof to support it. It doesn't matter what you think, Jiraiya. From this moment on, you are no longer our summoner. From this moment on, you cannot use Sennin Moto. From this moment on, you along with the rest of Konoha are on your own, and will receive no aid from any of summons. Consider all contracts Konoha shinobi have with various animals are now void, declared the Elder Toad before the Toad clan removed Jiraiya's ability, used his Sennin Moto, and sent the man back to Konoha. After giving Jiraiya another beating for being the total lying bastard that he was inside. Uzu Tower at the moment. Naruto stood in the center of Uzu Tower, his form strong, tall, powerful, and above all else, godly. Around him were 9 individuals wrapped in dark cloth and armor. Each of them was different in some shape or form, but they had one thing in common. Each of them was a Baiyu. Each one of them had at least one or more tails. Each of them had heard the call of their new master, had felt the power behind his will. As one, they kneeled. Each of 9 Biju in their current state had chosen to honor their previous hosts by taking on their facial appearance and overall height prior to their deaths. The only exceptions were Shikaku and Kurama. Shikaku facial features had taken on the form of the very old monk, who had at one point was Sabaku, no Gaara's Jinchuriki predecessor. Of course, Shukaku had made the face look young since he didn't want to make himself look that old in front of the other Baiju. As for Kurama, he mixed the facial features of Minato's, but gave himself Mito's eye color mixed into his crimson ones. In addition, Kurama also had decided to keep the crimson-colored vibrancy of Kushina's own hair, while keeping the hair itself short, but also spiky like Naruto's. "Whom do you serve?" asked Naruto, while each Biju kneeled before him had their heads down. "Uzumaki Naruto," declared all 9. "Biju at once." "Good. The time has come, my wraiths. The time has come to end the pain, the suffering, and the chaos this world has been put under. It is time for order. It is time for someone to take control and rule over all with an iron fist. I will ensure the vile creatures that ruled before me know their place in it. Understand that their days are now numbered. You 9 wraiths and Baiju who stand before me are now the enforcers of my will. You will strike down all who oppose me. Understand?" ordered Naruto with the 9 Baiju nodding, as they stood as one, and saw the burning fire within the man's eyes. One thing was certain to the 9 Biju. There would be no dawn. Akatsuki HQ at the moment. "Jugo and the others have fled, Sasuke. They took my prisoner with them. Your so-called subordinates aren't as loyal as we first thought, commented Obito while staring at the hole in the ceiling of the base with a frown. They will be dealt with properly the next time I see them, Obito, remarked Sasuke, while he was internally seething at the betrayal those fools had performed. Good. In the meantime, we are going to pay Uzu a visit and reclaim what is ours from the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, stated Obito before narrowing his eyes and glanced to his right before they widened in shock. Why? Because 4 of some of the most powerful ninjas in the past were coming out of the shadows to face him and Sasuke. This can't be happening. Minato-sensei is alive. And so are Hashirama and Tobirama, thought Obito before narrowing his eyes at the newcomers while Sasuke looked bored. Hello, Obito. It has been a long time, remarked Minato while Obito looked at him with a small scowl. Hello, Sensei. And yes, it has been a while. How many years? Must be well over 2 decades at least, replied Obito while the others looked at him, and then at Sasuke. So this is the Uchiha you fought all those years ago, Minato. And who is this? Madara's carbon copy clone, asked Tobirama while Sasuke scowled further. Watch your tone, Senju. You stand before an Uchiha elite. 2 Uchiha elite, stated Sasuke, while Tobirama looked unimpressed. He reminds me of Madara in many ways, Hashirama. Still, they both lack the power the man had, and it's clear these 2 are just hollow shells of his legacy, remarked Tobirama while both Uchiha bristled slightly at the barb when Hashirama nodded in agreement. Indeed, Madara was power incarnate. These 2 could never surpass him no matter how hard they tried, added Hashirama, though his tone of voice had pity behind it, and that made Obito, if not Sasuke, even more upset. If there was one thing an Uchiha hated, it was being pitied by other, especially if it was pity from a Senju. I sense much darkness in both of them. While not at the level of Madara, their hatred is one worthy of an Uchiha. They never could stand in the light, if at all for very long, said Mito while she saw Obito and Sasuke get more peeved by the insult from the Uzumaki woman. I must confess I am a bit curious as to how you 4 are even here and alive once more, despite the fact you should all be dead. I know the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is responsible for this, but my eyes show me that you are clearly not in Edo Tensei bodies. At least not the one I know was done by Orochimaru. You are too active, too lifelike to be mere puppets of the Jinchuriki I intend to find and kill once I have extracted the fox from him, said Obito in the hopes it would make Minato angry and act rashly. Obito was actually wishing Kushina was here. Her temper was exactly what was needed in this moment to cause things to go in his favor. My son has done much during his time, things you wouldn't believe. Things that would make you tremble in fear of him if you only knew what I do now. While I do not approve of most of these things, I understand his reasons for it, and his desire for revenge. Unlike you, Obito, and Uchiha Sasuke, my son will actually succeed in his plans to crush Konoha, and all those who side with the village, replied Minato coldly at the end, and made Obito blink in confusion since he never heard the Yondaime Hokage ever speak that way about the village. I see. So you learned your village is not the grand place you once thought it was, I take it? Questioned Obito while Minato's scowl deepened. Let's just say my eyes are now wide open, and my son showed me the truth kept hidden in the shadows. He knows them quite well, replied Minato while Sasuke scoffed. That loser, he's nothing. Just a weak thing who couldn't even die with dignity all those years ago, stated Sasuke arrogantly since he was not impressed by the 4-cage-level shinobi in front of him. That so-called nothing just happens to be my son, and that massive blast of power you no doubt felt earlier. The one that called all the Biju out of this destroyed statue. It was him, Naruto. My son did that, so be careful of what you say about him being nothing, you little brat, stated Minato while Obito and Sasuke were shocked to hear this. He did that. Impossible. No one has that kind of power. Not even Madara could tame all the Biju at once with his Sharingan, thought Obito in shock. That loser summoned that much power. No. I refuse to believe such a nobody could do such a thing, thought Sasuke angrily at how Naruto not only came back from the dead, but gained a whole new level of power. No matter. You four may be strong, but the Rinnegan gives me an edge over all of you, said Obito while Sasuke activated his Sharingan. You, Uchiha, always were thieves. Stealing what doesn't belong to you. Killing those who you couldn't steal from out of sheer jealousy. You truly are a cursed clan. Your bloodline is a taint on the Sage of Six Paths legacy, remarked Tobirama angrily with Obito giving him a glare. Enough talk. It's time I finally crush all of you before going after the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, exclaimed Obito before he rushed forward to engage Minato and Tobirama in combat. Looks like I get the old Senju fossil and his ugly Uzumaki slut for a wife, commented Sasuke while Hashirama's face became one of anger and fury. His manners are far worse than Madara's, commented Mito, while her eyes narrowed. Yes. Though Madara knew long ago never to insult you whether I was around to hear it or not. This carbon copy knockoff hasn't had the privilege of knowing the reason why. I think we should do the right thing before we kill this Uchiha and educate the boy on why Madara only insulted you once and only once during his time alive, replied Hashirama, while Sasuke didn't look impressed by his words. Agreed, remarked Mito before the two instantly vanished from Sasuke's sight, even with the Sharingan on, and struck the Uchiha together with a fist to the boy's gut. What? How could they move so fast that my eyes couldn't track them? Thought Sasuke before he found himself being pummeled viciously and ruthlessly by the combined might of the married couple from two different clans. It was not a well-known fact, but Madara had insulted Mito only once shortly after she had married Hashirama. The man was having a bad day. One of many from a long list of them within a few months of him, leaving Konoha. Mito had bumped into Madara one day on accident and apologized to the man since it had been her fault. Madara, in this moment of mental weakness, called her a spineless red-haired bitch who couldn't be a kunoichi to save her life, or that of the clan she came from, before shoving the woman against a nearby wall. That had been a mistake on Madara's part. Normally, Mito would be calm and collected when it came to people around her. But if there was one thing you never do when with Mito, it was insult an Uzumaki. Insult said Uzumaki woman's profession, or insult said Uzumaki's own clan. For you see, no sooner had Madara done all of that, did Mito, in her own moment of losing her temper, retaliated by grabbing the offending arm and threw him literally into the nearest training ground. Before Madara realized what had happened after stumbling to stand after the fall to the ground, the one who threw him here to this destination was upon him, and began to beat him within an inch of his life, smashing his armor to pieces, breaking his bones in multiple places, and using the Uchiha like her own personal training dummy? Hashirama himself had heard of the fight when in his office doing the infamously evil thing known as paperwork. Fearing for his wife, as any loving husband does, Hashirama arrived on the scene, only to find his worries for Mito were unfounded. Of course, the Senju knew his lovely wife wasn't a pushover in the slightest. She was an Uzumaki after all, and considered among the strongest in her clan to date. But to fight Uchiha Madara was not something one did unless they had a death wish. What Hashirama and Tobirama saw, after Tobirama himself came onto the scene, was jaw-dropping to say the least. Mito was standing over Madara's broken body with only a few stray hairs out of place of her usually well-kept hair, the knuckles of her hands now bloody, and her eyes had a slightly crazed look to them. Tobirama thought the woman was scarier than an army of Iwa, Kumo, and Kiri shinobi put together. To Hashirama, he was in shock and awe at the sight of his wife beating his rival Madara into the ground like the Uchiha was a mere child. In fact, the mere sight of Mito beating the stuffing out of Madara made him love the woman all the more. When it was all over, Mito flicked the blood off her fingers, fixed what strands of red hair were out of place, smoothed out her kimono, and proceeded to walk out of the crater made on the ground, like it was nothing. And to add one last insult to the injury, because she could, Mito stopped walking, turned to look back at the beaten Uchiha before simply whispering two simple words. Puny Uchiha. And now history was repeating itself in a sense, as Sasuke was getting beaten badly by both cage-level shinobi. The Uchiha tried to fight back with his sword, his lightning affinity, and of course his Sharingan eyes with the knowledge gained from learning under Orochimaru. But neither of his opponents were giving him the chance to use any of his skills. Hashirama was the Shodan Hokage and beat Madara in a one-on-one battle for the right to be Hokage of Konoha. He was the first ever proclaimed Kami no Shinobi, and could wield a power that made other enemy shinobi piss themselves. Uzumaki Mito was considered the strongest among the Uzumaki clan, and had the power to help tame a Biju, no matter how strong the demonic entity was. Not only that, but Mito was also just as good as, if not better, than Hashirama in a taijutsu fight. And the two of them knew each other so well that together they were practically unstoppable. They did take down Madara and the Kyuubi at the Valley of the End together, so that unto itself said something about their power and skill. Beating up a single Uchiha lacking the experience needed to remotely challenge either one alone, much less together, was child's play to them. As for Obito, he wasn't faring as well against Minato or Tobirama at all. Minato knew before his death that it was Obito who was the one to attack that night. It wasn't hard to figure out when realizing the way one fights can give away the identity of the person trying to hide themselves. Minato had trained his team well and knew how they moved, acted, talked, and even fought during their training sessions. Obito's fighting style took a short amount of time to learn during their original confrontation, due to it being altered thanks to Madara giving the Uchiha a few sessions. Not only that, but Tobirama and Minato were considered the masters of all things related to space-time jutsus by using fuinjutsu markers on objects, or bodies they marked. In fact, they had marked the lair quite a bit before revealing themselves for this fight, and were now using it to their advantage. In addition, Tobirama had knowledge of the ability Obito was using with his Sharingan to phase out of the physical plane, or teleporting to another location instantly, and shared it with Minato. Tobirama also knew the weakness of the Sharingan relating to this power, as it only kept someone phased out for a solid 5 seconds, and not a moment longer. Something both former Hokages were easily willing to exploit, and was forcing Obito to think defensively for a time, though the Uchiha was able to counter things with the Rinnegan. No matter how many times I do this, I don't think I will ever tire of using the Shinra Tensei, remarked Obito with a smirk, as he had used the named attack several incoming water dragons that Tobirama had launched his way. Your skill with the Sage's Eye is indeed impressive, but you are clearly unworthy of it, remarked Tobirama before teleporting behind Obito and moved to strike him, only for his fist to phase through him. Unworthy? Who are you to deem me unworthy of a power like this? Demanded Obito after becoming solid again, only to hit with a kick to the side of the face by Minato. Because you are using it for evil purposes, Obito. Don't you see the pain and suffering you caused over the years? Can you understand just how many lives you helped ruin and killed all for this Moon Eye plan of yours? Questioned Minato while Obito scowled at him. So what? It's all for Rin. I would kill well over 1,000 times more people if it meant I could have her back, stated Obito while Minato frowned at him. Even if you succeeded in bringing Rin back, how do you think Rin will feel when you explain to her just how you brought her back to life? Questioned Minato while Obito grit his teeth. Rin would never know what I did. I wouldn't tell her. And even if she did ask, I would just lie about it, said Obito while Minato raised an eyebrow at him. You? Lie to Rin? You never could lie to Rin to save your life, Obito. Though I suppose it's not really lying to Rin if the Rin in question created from your Moon Eye plan is in fact a fake, countered Minato with Obito looking murderous. Rin will be real. She will be as real to me as I am real right now. Real as the very air we breathe. Real in the ground we walk on. The only one who won't be part of it is you and your annoyance for a son, stated Obito angrily. And you really think the real Rin will love you after everything you've done? If she saw you here today, She would hate you for this," exclaimed Minato with Obito getting even angrier. "Shut up! Shut up! You don't get it. You still have your wife, so you don't know what it means to lose someone you love and not get them back. You don't know what pain truly is until you've walked my path," exclaimed Obito with Minato shaking his head at him. "But I do know what it means to lose someone, Obito. I do know pain. I died saving my son. My wife died saving my son. From you and the QB, no less. Afterwards, those I trusted to raise and nurture my son betrayed us. They made him Konoha's punching bag before killing my son by setting Naruto on fire. I do know pain, Obito. My wife knows pain. My son knows pain. Above all of us here. The only thing you have right now that the others here do not is the mentality of spoiled child being denied his favorite toy after it was taken away from him. That is as sad as it is pathetic," replied Minato with Obito, now sporting an infuriated look on his face beyond measure. "Shinra! Tensai!" exclaimed Obito with his hand raised to aim at Minato. "Water style. Water cannonball jutsu," exclaimed Tobirama from behind Obito, just as the Uchiha used the power of the Rinnegan, knowing the man couldn't use his Sharingan at the same time. The compressed ball of water shot straight and true right through Obito's chest. Obito himself struggled to stand at first. He looked down at where the sudden flare of pain had occurred in his chest. The Uchiha knew he could use the Izanagi to escape death like he did when fighting Conan. But the downside of this would be the loss of his Sharingan, the phasing out when attacked, and the ability to teleport via the Kamui. On the other hand, Obito also knew he could do nothing after being hit, except fall over, and just die like a normal person who got their chest blasted open by a lethal projectile. "Izanagi," whispered Obito before he reformed a second later unharmed, but without his Sharingan eye. He would just have to get the other one from Kakashi to replace it once done here. "Foolish. You extended your life a little while longer. All for nothing," commented Minato with Obito frowning. "You forget, Sensei, I have a replacement on standby. If there is one thing Kakashi did right, it was make sure nothing happened to the eye that I gave him," countered Obito with Minato smirking. "Yeah, about that. I visited Konoha recently not that long ago, and had a run-in with my other failure for a student. He doesn't have his eye anymore," replied Minato with Obito looking at him in horror. "What?" exclaimed Obito angrily. "Yes," he pleaded with me not to destroy it. "Of course, since the man didn't listen to my dying wish regarding the protection of my son, I saw no real need to listen to him either," said Minato while remembering that night, when he went to get Naruto's blood to be used as a means to revive him. Flashback Konoha night at the hospital. Kakashi was on the ground beside Jiraiya, both beaten bloody by Minato while Kushina dealt with Tsunade and the Anbu back in the building. Both the teacher and student of the former Yondaime Hokage had underestimated the ruthless fighting prowess the man possessed. They honestly didn't expect Minato would have the strength or conviction to fight them both, due to the man's past with them. Jiraiya and Kakashi were wrong in that regard. Surprised? You shouldn't be when considering the fact I know what you two idiots did in terms of raising my son. Or rather, your lack of raising him, said Minato, before he gave Jiraiya a vicious kick to the ribs for good measure. Sensei, you have to understand. The village, it needed to, replied Kakashi, but was silenced by a glare from Minato. Don't you dare call me your sensei. You lost that right long ago. Don't think for one moment I didn't find out about your time training the Uchiha boy, all the while leaving my son in the hands of someone who would sooner stab him in the back or sabotage his training. You deserted my son when he was attacked by mobs or helped them when he nearly gave those fools the slip. Late for protection detail for hours on end, so the mobs could easily form and try to hurt him. You betrayed me, Kakashi. I do not tolerate traitors to my family, replied Minato, while Kakashi struggled to back away from him. Minato-sensei, you don't understand. It had to be done. The prophecy Jiraiya-sama told the Sandan was going to happen, could have ended the world, or changed it where the village wasn't the strongest. Your son needed to be controlled, pleaded Kakashi, while Minato frowned further. That's your excuse. That damn prophecy, speaking of changing the world or ending it? Didn't you hate my son for the fox he held? I know you did. You hated my son because of the Kyuubi. Naruto told me as such, and I had the pleasure of hearing quite a few of Danzo's root Anbu confess what they knew about your past actions once my son got through with them. At the very least, you could look me in one normal eye and give me an honest answer. For once in your miserable life, give me an honest answer to why I did what you did to my son, exclaimed Minato, while Kakashi became angry and glared up at the man he once had the honor of learning under. All right, I admit it. I hated him. I hated him. I hated Naruto. The Biju sealed inside of him took you and Kushina away from me. You two were the only family I felt I had left after my parents died. Then the fox attacked, the sealing happened, and now the two of you are dead, with Naruto being the reminder of what was left of that horrible moment. Every day that boy lived was an insult, Konoha. An insult to those who died. An insult to you and Kushina. Had he not been conceived, much less born, Kushina wouldn't have been placed in such a vulnerable position, and the fox would have never gotten free, replied Kakashi, while Minato shook his head. Your father was a great man, Kakashi. Do you know why he was a great man? Asked Minato suddenly. No. Besides, no one in Konoha considers him to be one. And why are you bringing him up? Questioned Kakashi, while Minato scowled further. Because he knew the value of loyalty and friendship, of what it meant to be a comrade to others. Konoha was foolish to treat him like trash for his actions on that mission, where he saved the lives of his fellow shinobi at the expense of the mission. Do you know why that is, Kakashi? Asked Minato, while Kakashi shook his head. No. Because deserting your friends makes you lower than trash, answered Kakashi, while Minato nodded. Very good. You remember that much. But the reason I respect your father is because he knew, like I did, that missions for shinobi come and go. They are temporary. Friendship, loyalty to others, and being a comrade willing to fight beside you to the bitter end is not. It's priceless. Do you understand me, Kakashi? Friendship between people, especially for shinobi who go out into the world, and at times commit evil things in the name of good, can be considered just as valuable as gold. In fact, I would rather fight beside a small group of weak, yet loyal shinobi from a minor village in a fight, than stand back to back with an army of strong, but backstabbing fools like the ones in Konoha. Because out of both sides, I know the former will have my back in a pinch, while the latter would stab me in the back in an instant if made an offer by the enemy, replied Minato, while Kakashi glared at him. He should have chosen the mission, countered Kakashi finally. And what? Let his fellow comrades die. Do you know that because he chose to save those ingrates, the shinobi from his unit were able to settle down, form a family, and have children of their own? To make Konoha's ranks swell with prominent future ninja that would defend Konoha and keep her strong in the long run. Questioned Minato with Kakashi, looking away from him. I did, whispered Kakashi, but Minato heard him all the same. I'll admit, the mission he went on may have been important, Kakashi, but it wasn't end of the world type important. You should have tried to help your father, but you chose not to out of fear of being ostracized and ultimately hated by the public at large. Like my poor son has been from the start of his life for being a Jinchuriki. The only difference is, where my son took his licks and kept on marching on, you would have caved within the first week, whispered Minato before his face became filled with anger and grabbed Kakashi's masked face and ripping off the headband.